I thought it was just another night, until I realized I had already lost her. Some nights feel normal, until they aren't. The first time I noticed her, she was standing by the window, the city lights reflecting on her hair like melted ink. I had moved into this apartment only a month ago, thinking life would slow down, but nothing slowed me down like her. She carried herself with a calm grace that was almost untouchable. She didn't smile much, not at first, but when she did, it felt like the room tilted just enough to notice the quiet warmth she left behind. Our conversations were sparse, often filled with pauses where words seemed inadequate. Sometimes, I would catch her looking at me, as if she wanted to say something she couldn't. I became addicted to the pauses, the silence between sentences, the unsaid feelings that hovered like smoke. It was exhausting, but also intoxicating. I never realized how deep my feelings were until I found myself lingering near her door, just to hear the faint sound of her music or the distant laughter she never noticed I was listening to. That night, we shared our first tea, and nothing was said beyond pleasantries, yet I felt closer to her than I had with anyone. By the end of the evening, the city outside had grown quiet. Our hands brushed lightly, a fleeting touch that sent an unexpected warmth through me. She didn't notice, or pretended not to. But I noticed. I always noticed, love hides in the smallest things, and I was seeing them too late. She never asked for attention. She didn't need it. But I started noticing the subtle things, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when thinking, how her fingers lingered over a cup of coffee longer than necessary, how her laughter softened the corners of my own world. One rainy evening, I offered her my umbrella. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. That smile wasn't just gratitude, it was a whisper of trust. We walked in silence, side by side, sharing the same space without forcing words. And yet, each pause felt heavier than the words we avoided. I wanted to tell her how I felt. I rehearsed it 1,000 times in my head, but when I looked at her, all the courage melted away. Instead, I watched. I waited. Small gestures became my love letters. A cup of coffee left on her desk, a note tucked into her bag, silent attempts to show I cared. She noticed, of course. I could see it in the quiet moments when her eyes lingered on mine, questioning, uncertain. But she never crossed the line into confession. She never allowed me in fully. And I loved her for it, even as it tore me apart. Some nights feel like they belong to eternity, but they vanish in an instant. It started like any other evening. She invited me for tea. But the night was different, her presence heavier, her silence louder. We sat across from each other, not touching, not speaking, yet fully aware of the unspoken tension. I reached out once, brushing her hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't respond either. My heart ached at the restraint, at the invisible wall between us. I wanted to cross it, to say the words that had been eating me alive, but something held me back. By the time she left, the city had gone quiet, leaving only the echo of her steps. I realized, too late, that my love was trapped in moments like this, unspoken, unnoticed, and fading. That night, I understood something crucial: some connections never survive silence, no matter how deep they feel. She was leaving town for a week, not telling me. A small detail, yet a devastating one. Distance turns whispers into screams no one can hear. Her absence was more painful than I imagined. I called, texted, but she was distant, polite, unreachable. Each day without her presence felt heavier, as though the apartment itself mourned her absence. I realized how much I depended on her quiet smiles, the brush of her hand, the faint scent she left behind. The silence was unbearable. Every message I sent went unanswered for hours, sometimes days. I felt invisible, though I had been standing beside her only days before, feeling her every breath. The city seemed colder. Streets looked sharper. My thoughts looped endlessly around that night, replaying every gesture, every pause, every smile. I wished I had said something. Anything. My heart screamed in a language she would never hear. Sometimes the truth hides where you least expect it. Weeks later, I discovered she had been struggling with something I couldn't see, battles she never shared. All her distance, her silence, her guarded heart, it wasn't me. She carried a weight she couldn't put down. This revelation didn't ease my pain, it reshaped it. Every harsh pause, every unanswered message suddenly made sense. I loved her all the more, but also all the less in control. I realized love isn't about possession, it's about understanding, even when it hurts. I began leaving little notes at her door, small reminders that someone cared. Sometimes she smiled faintly when she found them. Sometimes she didn't. And each time, I learned that love and pain often live side by side, that I was in love, with the idea of being needed. One evening, she looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen before. She spoke of leaving soon, for good. My chest tightened. I understood then, our connection, though deep, wasn't enough to bridge the distance she had always carried inside herself. I tried to hold her, to anchor her, but the truth was heavier than my desire. She wasn't mine to keep, and love doesn't conquer everything. I realized I had loved her too quietly, too carefully, afraid of scaring her away. Perhaps if I had spoken sooner, if I had bared my heart fully, things might have been different. But some nights change everything, whether we are ready or not. Some stories end without a word, and the silence screams the loudest. The night she left, I watched her vanish into the city lights. She didn't turn back. I didn't call. We both knew, some moments aren't meant to last. I sat alone in the apartment, tracing the faint outlines of her presence, listening to the echoes she left behind. I realized love is not always about holding on, sometimes it's about letting go. And yet, letting go hurt more than I had ever imagined. I learned that the deepest connections often exist in silence, in gestures too small to notice, in pauses too fleeting to capture. I never told her the truth. I never said the words that might have saved us. And perhaps that's the cruelest twist of all, the love I felt, the moments we shared, now live only in memory, in the quiet ache that never fades. If this story felt real, you're not alone. Sometimes love isn't about holding on, it's about remembering.